Hey, what's up? I'm Guy.
I'm John.
It's our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it and give this video a like.
Yep, podcast below it in the description. Check it out as well.
Also, check out our sponsor, wineaccess.com/ham. 20% off your first order.
Guy, how do you beat that? Send gifts right now. Family, friends, significant others. Wineaccess.com. Wineaccess.com/ham. 20% off.
If you're watching this before the second round of the NFL draft, join us for our draft stream on Friday night. Okay, the price the Niners pay. Now we know who they drafted. We know where the other quarterbacks got drafted, 11 and 15, Fields and Mac Jones. The Niners traded 2 future ones and next year's compensatory third-round pick to get from 12 to 3. Now that we know who they got, where the other guys went, what do we think of the price they paid?
It was a lot. I mean, I don't think there's any way to get. They overpaid to get up early, and I think that rang true last night. Now, the thing that's hard to tell, and I did a little recon after the draft. I was told the Panthers would not have taken him. Now, obviously, they acquired Sam Darnold. They then picked up his fifth-year option today. You know, I do. I'm going to red flag the information I got just because. Why didn't they pick up the fifth-year option before when they did it on another player? So I'm gonna red flag that one. I'd say it's safe to say Denver would have just rolled this year with Teddy Bridgewater. To me, the question is, and I had heard that the Eagles were intrigued by Trey Lance. Is there a chance that they just viewed it as just this big-time talent? I know it'd be hard to go back to the well, but like let's say the Niners had tried to trade from 12 to 6, once the Dolphins, once the Bengals, to get with the Eagles at 6. Could the Eagles have said no and just taken him? That would have been, to me, the risk. I don't think that is inconceivable for it to happen. But I think it's fair to say, looking back, it's 50-50 that he just would have been there at 12 because the Giants aren't going to take him, right? And if the Eagles pass, I don't think the Panthers would have taken him. It could have been Denver. It's hard to tell.
New England.
We don't know for sure, but I definitely think it was possible that he would have been there at 12. Mac Jones, 100% we learned would have, right? That would have been a disaster. Would have been terrible value.
And Justin Fields would have been reachable. We'll just put it that way, right? He ultimately goes 11. He would have been. You're sitting there at 12. He would have been reachable. I think New England, I tend to think that Kyle and Bill like similar quarterbacks. I tend to think they'd be on the same page with guys. We don't know that to be a fact. That means they like every guy similarly. But you're right. We'll never really know.
I think Jimmy is a fair example. I mean,
Jimmy's
Bill
an obvious example. I think Kyle actually liked Mac Jones. We know now that Bill Belichick actually liked Mac Jones. We know that Kyle did not select Justin Fields. We don't know that Bill wouldn't have preferred Justin Fields to Mac Jones, but I don't think Bill would have preferred Justin Fields to Mac Jones. As you pointed out to me when we talked about this beforehand, would the Patriots have offered as much as the Bears did to move up to get Justin Fields? Maybe not, but I do think the thing that they could have offered is the Giants wouldn't have had to go as far back. If he liked Justin Fields, he certainly could have tried to make an offer. Maybe he did. We don't know. But the point is, I think it's reasonable to think that they could not have gotten Trey Lance at number 12. I also think part of the price you pay here is to make yourself comfortable with the pick. You are making, and I think with hindsight now, we look at Kyle Shanahan, even after they knew who they were taking Monday, the way he felt, I don't think anxiety is the word, but I think he knows that this is the biggest decision that he has made in his career to this point. And he wanted
it is by a mile.
By a mile. And I think I think we saw that in him in his press conferences leading up to the draft. So to make themselves ultimately more comfortable with the pick and to do their full due diligence, they were going to know as much as they could possibly know about their guy. And he said, one thing he said after they drafted, I'll put this up on the screen, part of this quote, after they drafted Trey Lance, when you get to know the person, that's what's really cool about where we got that. I didn't have to be sneaky with trying to know someone where he could know I was trying to get to know him. I could say stuff to him. I could be upfront with him, and I got to know him. And he went on to say he's a very good person and all that. But Kyle said I could say things to him and do things that I wouldn't have done if I was not sitting there at 3. You and I, housing markets popping off everywhere around the country. Anyone can identify, especially in the Bay Area. Here in the Bay Area, people are waiving. They buy a house, the right to inspect the house. The Niners paid a little extra to have the right to inspect the house. We'll give you more cash, but I want to make sure I can check the foundation. I want to know that I can check the plumbing. I want to make sure there's no bugs and wood rot and all that stuff. So that's how I view this. I think the Niners paid a little extra to not have to waive their inspection contingency on these quarterbacks. And I am good with that. Here's the other thing. I think, and did I say this on the stream?
Here's where I'd push back a little bit. I'd say they paid a lot extra. You know, if it's equivalent of $1 million house, they were willing to pay $2 million to just do everything possible, and they were in. Like the extra.
Well, how much do you think they paid an extra one?
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't going to go from 12 to 3 yesterday with just 1-1, right?
No, it would have cost maybe a 1, a 2, and a 3. You know, staggered over years.
Okay, so maybe it wasn't a full extra one, but a 1 instead of a 2. But they knew that when they did it. Like, this is the biggest, like you said to me when I told you that analogy, you're buying your forever home here, you hope. So, again, if this guy hits, no one's going to think twice about it. And I think the other element here is you paid a lot extra if you don't think someone else was going to draft him. But Herm Edwards has said that the Niners called him before they drafted Brandon Ayuk, and he told them, if you want him, you probably need to move up to get him, based on what he knew from talking to other people around the league that like Brandon Ayuk. And, again, I think agents, this is why I think the Niners might have known who else was interested. I think if you're an agent for a quarterback, you want your guy to play for Kyle Shanahan.
Well, I think there were two trades.
I think they might have had some of that information, too.
There were two trades yesterday obviously the Niners happened earlier, but for quarterbacks, right? One cost a 1 to move up 9 spots and a 4. The other cost 2 1s, pick 12, and a third. The difference to me is like, I think where the Bears, now again, we're just talking about the value, not which guy's going to be good. I think you would clearly say Trey Lance is in a much more stable situation with a much better team. But part of it was like the Bears were patient. They let a guy fall. I had heard they had tried to trade up in single digits. They couldn't get up. Like, they were willing to be aggressive. And then they ultimately paid a price that I think they feel pretty good about. The Niners paid, I mean, there's just no way around it. There's nothing wrong with it. But in the housing example, there's a big difference of overpaying for a house if you're worth $50 million than if you're worth $300,000, right? And over-leveraging yourself. And in the sense that the Niners over-leverage themselves, just that first-round picks, when you become good with the young quarterback, like the Chiefs, for example, you can start using them as ammo to do other things. Like that, then you just lose ammo for years, right? Not just, obviously, this year you get the player, so you basically paid 2 first-rounders net, where the Bears paid 1, and they got 2 players, in my opinion, that would have been viewed as, you know, I think higher upside than Zach Wilson, both those 2 guys. They're just different physical specimens. And you could feel the pressure, right? And you could sense it on Kyle last night. You definitely could sense it on Monday. There is just a shitload on the line. And I think ultimately it gave them, they were cool with it because it does take a lot of effort and energy to hide your plans when it comes to a quarterback. And I think you could argue it's basically impossible. So did they just pay the equivalent of an extra 1, or maybe it factored in what it really would have cost, a second, just for peace of mind? And if you got 6-year contracts, peace of mind to get your quarterback and do your due diligence, I think they would say it's worth it all day long. Now comes the next part. He just has to be good. Yeah. But like, given that was irrelevant whether he's good or not the month lead up, right? They need to get the information. They need to work them out. They need to do all these things that would have been very, very difficult because word just spreads like high school gossip in the NFL and through social media channels and reporters and coaches. It's this web. It would have been impossible for them to feel comfortable pulling the trigger, even if they had traded up on draft day, given what they were able to do without having to worry about it, right?
Yep. Yeah, and if Justin Fields is as good as Trey Lance or better than Trey Lance, then it's easy to decide who won those 2 deals, right? But if Justin Fields is pretty good and Trey Lance is really good, then you go, okay, would we have rather had pretty good and our other 1, or would we rather had really good and have paid the extra 1? I don't know. We can figure that out as time goes on. But I do think there's something to be said for, if you're going to go in, go all the way in, right? If it's going to cost you 2 1s to do exactly what you want to do instead of 1 1 to do something that, you're good with but isn't your first option, At this position, I'm okay with going all the way in to make sure you're doing exactly what it is that you want to do.
I'd agree.
Now, you're right. I think that's like this idea. Everybody was going, all right, cheering. Yes, we got our guy, but now the pressure. Now you still got to go win with them. Like nothing ended yesterday. It only began.
To me, there are two separate elements of the draft: the market, and that was what the Niners had traded up. What you have to pay for the asset. Then what you do with the asset. Now we're post-draft is now what does this guy become? But we have the information of what they paid, what they quote-unquote overpaid. The price was enormous, historic. We know that. Like that information's in. That only stays a talking point if he isn't good. If he's great, no one cares. No one even talks about like Watson and Mahomes, the draft. Like no one even knows the numbers beside where they were drafted. Chiefs gave up a 1 and a 3. Like you don't even give a fuck.
Yeah, look, and
could you just say they underpaid?
Let's just say for the sake of this argument that Trey Lance turns into Patrick Mahomes and Mac Jones turns into Deshaun Watson. Okay, I know it doesn't make, but for just that level of player, you could argue you should have stayed at 12 and gotten Mac Jones, right? You could argue that. Like we'll see, time will tell. But as you said. Really, if your guy's good, none of that other stuff really matters. Oh, is he this much better than that guy?
I'd say it's a double whammy. If your guy's good and your team is winning. Because even like Watson is like, he became – now it wasn't all his fault, but like that's where the element – like Kyle is the star of this team. Even to me, if Trey Lance becomes like – Kyle is such a big just name personality, it feels like he's – I don't even know. Like, I mean, he's just going to be the Belichick of this team. Like that. I'd say even Andy, like Mahomes, is somewhat even kind of past him. Andy's cool with it. Like, that's just not going to happen with Kyle. And I'm not saying Kyle's even forcing that narrative on anyone. It just is what it is. This is Kyle's team. Kyle fucking makes all the decisions. Kyle's known as the guru. Like, Kyle almost gets treated like a college coach. Like, when you say Alabama, the first thing you think of is not like Julio or Mac Jones it's just Saban. Right? Even Clemson, all these players, the first thing you think of is like, Dabo built it. You're just going to think of Kyle. And if Trey Lance becomes a starter, it'll be like the two of them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But if it fails, it'll be on Kyle. That's what makes this is an incredible story that's only going to keep on giving.
No doubt. Because and we talked about the other night, this is now Kyle's true first chance going from just Kyle the schemer to Kyle the position coach. Kyle, the quarterback developer, which is really historically when we talk about the great offensive minds, that is what we talk about. The quarterbacks you develop, right? The quarterbacks you develop. Now, part of that is if you're the play caller, but like in the 50,000-foot discussions, we talk about the quarterbacks you develop, not necessarily that you can always scheme the guy open on third down.
Agreed.